Okay, everybody wave. Hi. Here we go. Chapter 5 is called Mouse Holes. And remember, each quiz there's been a question about the cover here. So when we call it mouse holes, what are we going to be projecting here? Since each one has been foreshadowing, what are we saying that we are foreshadowing here? Yes, ma'am.
Well, usually mouse holes are what mice usually use to escape, which could be used with like irony to show like how they're about to be like taken in and held hostage, and there is no escape.
Very good. I think that you're spot on saying this is where that mice would go to hide. So we're going to start to see the mice in hiding, which in our case is the Jewish people. So our Jewish people are going to feel the need to be in hiding, even more so. All right. Here we go. Hello, Artie. I'm telling you, I don't know what to do with your father. He just climbed onto the roof. Mala? He insisted on fixing the drain pipe and got dizzy. I don't know how I ever got him down. What time is it? Now he wants to climb back up. What am I supposed to do? Please don't shout. Why don't you call a handyman? Geez, Mala, it's only 7:30 a.m. Francois and I were up till 4. You know we don't get up till... Hello, Artie? It's Papa here. I'm telling you, Mala makes me meshuggah. I want that maybe you could come now to Queens to help me. What? You've got to be kidding. When I was young, I could do by myself all these things, but now, darling, I need your help. I needed your help for me, the drain pipe. Help for the drain pipe. Look, Pop, I'll call you back after I've had some coffee. Whew, maybe I was dreaming. Was it your father again? He wants me to go help him fix his roof or something. Bad word. Even as a kid, I hated helping him around the house. He loved showing off how handy he was and proving that anything I did was all wrong. He made me completely neurotic about fixing stuff. I mean, I didn't even own a hammer before we moved to this place. One reason I became an artist was that he thought it was impractical, just a waste of time. It was an area where I wouldn't have to compete with him. So are you going to Queens? No way. I'd rather feel guilty. Besides, I'm too busy, and he can easily afford to hire somebody. Hello, Pop. Listen, about that drain pipe, I don't think I can come. So, never mind, Artie. I talked just now to Frank. He lives next door. He agreed he would fix it with me over the weekend. That's great. Yes, of course, better it would be fixed today, but at least somebody will help me. Just great. So, in those 2 pages, what are we seeing? Him and his father's relationship. And it's a struggled, tormented relationship, and it kind of got almost like a psychologist breakdown there from the son's point of view, right? Where he always felt like he couldn't do anything right growing up. And then so much so that he based his entire career around an industry in art that his father would not be able to say anything about because he's not good at it. Right? It's an area where he can be better than his father. And again, we are inside our picture frame or outside our picture frame on the frame story. We're on the outside of the picture frame, and then here soon we will go into the picture frame. About a week later, early afternoon. Hiya, Pop. What you doing out here in the garage? It's always something here I must do. I'm putting now away my old nails. The long ones separate from the short ones. Plink. Is the roof all fixed up? Yeah, Frank from next door came eventually, and together we fixed. Do you need any help with those nails or anything? No. Such jobs I can do easy by myself. Plunk. Is everything okay? Plink. New? With my life now, you know I can't be everything, okay? You go upstairs. I'll finish here my job, and in a few minutes I'll come up. Okay? Plink. Hi, Mala. Oi, you scared me, Artie. My nerves are completely shot living with your father. That says a lot. This girl survived the Holocaust. and living with this man is driving her insane. He seemed a little upset when I saw him downstairs. Do you think he's angry that I didn't come help him last week? I don't think so. But keeping this house fixed up is too much for him now. I keep telling him to sell it and buy a condo in Miami. He seems depressed. It could be that comic strip you once made, the one about your mother. What? Vladek saw it for the first time a couple of days ago. How do you know about Prisoner on Hell Planet? My friend Ruthie has a son in college. He reads all the comics. He showed up the other day and gave me a copy. Beep. Another bad word. I knew it would upset your father, so I kept it hidden, but somehow he found it. I drew this story years ago. It appeared in an obscure underground comic book. I never thought Vladek would see it. Okay, so now we're going to read the comic book. Again, this is the point where if you don't want to read, if you feel like you're going to be triggered in some way, or if you need to step out or close the book while we go over this, that's fine. Disclaimer. Don't read this section. It's not on any test, but we are going to talk about it. You ready? If you're staying. Prisoner on Hell Planet, a case history. Some things that you should notice if we're watching and we're looking at this literarily. There are real images interspersed with the drawings. Okay? And the drawings that you've seen so far look a little more cartoonish, and these look a little bit cartoonish as well, but in a very different way. Okay, the way the drawing is done, it is completely different from every drawing we've seen so far. In 1968, when I was 20, my father killed herself. My mother killed herself. She left no note. My father found her when he got home from work, her wrist slashed and an empty bottle of pills nearby. Oh, he got. I was living with my parents as I agreed to do on my release from the state mental hospital 3 months before. I just spent the weekend with my girlfriend, Isabella. My parents didn't like her. I was late getting home. I suppose that if I'd gotten home when I expected, I would have found her body. When I saw the crowd, I had a pang of fear. I suspected the worst, but I didn't let myself know. And you can see in the image, even the faces that you can see that are bystanders are kind of gruesome and looking ghoulish, right? A cousin herded me away from the scene. Come to the doctor. Your mother is sick. He will explain. Dr. Orens lived nearby. Sit down, Arthur. I thought I should be the one to tell you. Your mother killed herself. She's dead. I could avoid the truth no longer. The doctor's words clattered inside me. I felt confused. I felt angry. I felt numb. I didn't exactly feel like crying, but I figured I should. She's dead, a suicide. And you can see like it's almost replaying in his head here. And this is the evolution of the tear falling. Now, boy. No, let him cry. It's good for him. We went home. My father had completely fallen apart. Oi, Artie, why? Such a tragedy and not even a note. I was expected to comfort him. Mother. Somehow the funeral arrangements were made, and for $950 we have a bronze casket with bronze-colored velvet. Of course, for $2,000 we can. That night was bad. My father insisted we sleep on the floor. An old Jewish custom, I guess. He held me and moaned to himself all night. I was uncomfortable. We were scared. The next day at the funeral home was worse. And this is Hebrew, right? The language here you're reading. My father fought for self-control and pray. I was pretty spaced out in those days. And prayed. It kind of cuts off here. What does that say? Recited to my mother from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I nobly born in your in your journey through the formless void, remember the unity of all living things. I don't know if this is his exaggeration, interpretation, or some of the psychedelic drugs he was on, because he was in a mental institute. And if you understand how you are treated in a mental institute, it's with therapy and drugs. Most of the time at the same time. So some of these drugs are meant to space you out a little bit so that you don't think so um, deeply and repetitively about things, because a lot of people that are going through an episode repeatedly cycle over horrible things and then they can't get out of it. And he just came into a situation that would obviously cause a lot of depression. So I don't know if he's seeing his dad cry and he's picturing him like climbing on the casket, but he said it was too much for him and he had to leave. Either way, his dad couldn't handle it either. He was struggling as well. A friend of the family found me in the hall. Now you cry? Better you cried when your mother was still alive. Not very comforting. I felt nauseous. The guilt was overwhelming. Again, this part's hard to read. Pay attention. Don't pay attention. It's up to you. The next week we spent in mourning. My father's friends all offered me hostility mixed in with their condolences. Arthur, we're so sorry. It's his fault, the punk. They think it's my fault. Now, remember, those bubbles are thoughts. Okay, this is his interpretation of what someone else thinks. People who have anxiety, people who are depressed, often project what other people think, and they cannot escape those thoughts. It's a constant repetitious thing. So in this case, they think it's my fault is something that he's dealing with, so he thinks that's what he's saying. But for the most part, I was left alone with my thoughts. Remember, the menopausal depression is written across here. There is a part, remember back when Ricky was born, she suffered from postpartum depression. So she was someone who suffered from depression anyway, but she was way more subject to it than others. So when she went through menopause, which is a woman's cycle, right? Eventually they are not able to produce children anymore, and that part of that is called menopause. So menopause caused her depression here. Then she's also dealing with Hitler, and she's also dealing with the loss of her child, someone screaming mommy, and then of course that's horrible. But she's dealing with her son not liking her, or she feels like he does, possibly. I remember the last time I saw her, Artie. She came in my room. It was late at night. Artie, you still love me, don't you? Sure, Ma. I turned away, resentful of the way she tightened the umbilical cord. Sounds like she smothered him a lot with attention, right? I turned away, resentful of the way she tightened the umbilical cord. She's trying to give the love of two children to one child, right? She lost one of her children. So the way she dealt with that was to give an unbearable amount of love to him, and he wanted just to be free of that, just to be alive. So he pushed her away, and now he feels guilty that she's killed herself. She walked out and closed the door. Click. Well, Mom, if you're listening, congratulations, you've committed the perfect crime. You put me here, shorted all my circuits, cut my nerve endings, and crossed my wires. You murdered me, Mommy, and you left me here to take the rap. Pipe down, Mac. Some of us are trying to sleep. Okay. In his mental institution, he put a lot of blame on how he got there on his mother. Okay, we're seeing a lot of this now. As he's dealing with it, one of his best outlets to deal with his pain, you notice that all artists are usually this troubled. It comes from a troubled place. They either are struggling with a loss of a loved one, a lost lover, right? A girlfriend broke up with me, so here's a really sad song, top of the charts, right? It's the way it is. These artists come up with this, and it's usually from a troubled spot. Picasso, Mozart, all of these people come from a very troubled part of their lives. And he wrote this article or this piece from a very troubled part of his life. Journaling, writing, it helps you move past these things, getting it out. You know Halsey, right? Halsey? Her big album that she put out was about her breakup with G-Eazy. Did y'all know that? Right. So like all of those songs without me, that's about him. And so it's like this. Anyway, there's a lot in that that goes with the pain of this. So forward out of that. So he's talking with Mala, remember, and then he rereads that comic book, and he's like, I can't believe my dad saw this. Doesn't paint dad in a great light. Plus, we just told our innermost secrets to the whole world. Whoever wants to read them, right? Gee, I'm surprised that Vladek read this when he found it. He never reads comics. He doesn't even look at my work when I stick it under his nose. But this isn't like other comics. I tell you, when Ruthie showed it to me, I thought I'd faint. I was so shocked. It was so personal, but very accurate, objective. I spent a lot of time helping out here after Anya's funeral. It was just as you said. So, Artie, I'm ready. Let's walk now to the bank together. Mala just told me that you saw my comic, the one about Mom. Yes, I found it when I looked for the things you asked me last time. Whew. I saw the picture there of Mom, so I read it, and I cried. I'm sorry. It's good you got it out of your system, but for me, it brought in my mind so much memories of Anya. Of course, I'm thinking always about her anyway. Yes, you keep photos of her all around your desk like a shrine. It's got to be hard for the current wife. What have I to do, Mala? In the garbage put them? Of you also I have a photo on my desk. Ah, don't do me any favors. You see what I have with her? Always. Whatever I do is no good. Did you find Mom's diary? So far, this didn't show up. I looked, but I couldn't find it. I've got to have that. Another time, I'll again look, but now better we go to the bank. Okay. Every day I walk. Otherwise, in my legs, the circulation makes me a cramp. It's something terrible and I can't sleep. But for my heart, I must walk slow. What happened to you and Anya after the big selection at the stadium? Well, for at a time it was everything quiet. Then in 1943 came an order. All Jews that are left in Sosnovich must go to live in an old village nearby called Shrodula. So now we are entering the inside of the picture frame. We're getting back to the story of them in the Holocaust. And the Poles of Shrodula, we Jews had to pay to move them to our houses in Sosnovich. And here in Shrodula, we would be our ghetto to live ever after. Our family got a cottage, less space than before, but we had at least where to live. Many lived in the street. Each day we were taken to Sosnovich to work in German shops. Anya with her sister Tosha, they worked in a clothing factory, and I worked together with my nephew Lolik at a woodworking shop. Every day the guards marched us about an hour and a half to work. The guards, it was Jews with big sticks. They acted so just like the Germans. And every night they marched us back, counted us, and locked us in. Vladek, Lolek, hurry home. Anya, what is it? Wolf's uncle Persis is at our house. From Zorshi? Yes, he's a big shot there, the head of the Jewish council. He wants Wolf, Tosha, and Bibi to go live with him in Zorshi. You've all heard the stories about Auschwitz. Horrible, unbelievable stories. They can't be true. One thing is certain, as bad as things are in the ghetto, being deported is even worse. Please, it's bad luck to even speak of it. Look, you don't have much influence here. In Zorchi, I have some influence with the Germans. I can bribe them. My 90-year-old father still lives with me. Whenever he's a roundup, and there's a roundup, an SS man guards him to keep him safe. 90? This was 1943. It wasn't left any other Jews that had 90 years. Persis was really a fine man, not so like Moniak Marin, the head of our ghetto, who looked out only for himself. Persis tried really to help his Jews. I can manage papers to take Wolf, Tasha, and Bibi, and maybe little Lonia and Richu if you'll let me. Yes, they'd be better off. You see, I wanted to send Richu someplace safe a year ago with Ilzeki's child. Things are even worse now, Vladek. We have no choice. No, we must all stay together. We've made it here this far. God will still help us. Maka, be realistic. Anya's mother didn't like to look at the facts, but finally she agreed. So Persis arranged and came again to Strodala. It went with him Wolf, Tasha, and Bibi, Lolek's little sister Anya, and our boy Riku. So this part here is, is it going to let me do it? Catch 22?
You have to go to the drawing.
Maybe you're right. Let's try that. Catch 22? Right? A catch 22 here where they had to decide whether to send the boy with the family or not. Just like the earlier decision they made to send him with Nozeki. They didn't do it then, and clearly they've decided now that it's a good idea, and they've been presented another opportunity. So to give Riku to the family would give him a better chance, possibly, because the family that he's going with is Polish, not Jewish, right? Or are they Jewish? And the guy that's going there, they have sway in the town. They have a friend who's in charge of the ghetto on the Jewish side, right? And then so they feel like he has a better chance to survive. But fast forward, we know that Riku doesn't make it out, right? So this choice as a catch-22, we need to see if sending him this way with the family is a good idea or a bad idea. Because they stay here is staying better. Do they live? Do they go to a camp? Does he live if he goes there? Okay? So this is the catch-22. Yes? The catch-22 here, remember catch-22 defined as? Either way, very, very tough decision. It's a lose-lose situation. Very good. Okay. We watched until they disappeared from our eyes. It was the last time ever we saw them, but that we couldn't know. When things came worse in our ghetto, we said always, thank God to the kids are with Persis, safe. That spring, on one day, the Germans took from Strodala to Auschwitz over 1,000 people. Most they took were kids, some only 2 or 3 years. Some kids were screaming and screaming. They couldn't stop. So the Germans swing them by the legs against the wall, and they never anymore screamed. In this way, Germans treated the little ones as still had survived. This I didn't see with my own eyes, but somebody the next day told me, and I said, thank you, God. With Persis, our children are safe. That part's hard to talk about, hard to read, hard to imagine that that's actually a thing. And so we move on. So what happened to Riku? Our beautiful boy. We only found out much later. A few months after we sent Riku to Zorzi, the Germans decided that they would finish out that ghetto. Bang, bang. More gunshots. What's going on? It's horrible, Tosha. All the Gestapo in the ghetto have been replaced by others from Opole. They just shot Persis and the rest of the Jewish council. What? They're evacuating Zorzi. We're all supposed to go to the square with our baggage right away. They're sending all of us to Auschwitz. Oh my God. No. I won't go to their gas chambers, and my children won't go to their gas chambers. Bibi, Lonya, Riku, come here quickly. Always Tasha carried around her neck some poison. She killed not only herself, but also the 3 children. I'm telling you, it was a tragedy among tragedies. He was such a happy, beautiful boy. This part's really difficult. As someone with small children, this part hits me very close. The concept that she knows they go to Auschwitz, they go to the gas chambers, they're all going to suffer like this painful, long, extended death. It's all going to be traumatizing. They have to be transported there. They're going to be stripped of their clothing. They're going to be humiliated. There's going to be all these things that go with it. So instead of that, she would rather have a controlled environment where they have a group suicide, basically, which is a horrible situation. You want to talk about another catch-22? Be that adult for 1 second. That's unbelievable to even consider the hypothetical that I just put out there. Do you go to the Auschwitz camp? Maybe something happens. The train derails. You're able to survive. Maybe something happens out there, right? I don't know. Maybe they get liberated right at the right time and they don't get killed. But you can't know that, right? We know what happens when they go to Auschwitz, right? The able-bodied people go to one side, everybody else goes to the other, and those people are immediately killed. So what's going to happen to all those kids? They're going to get killed. It's horrible. So, unfortunately, you can see it here. The dad still deals with that, just like this is also something. Remember earlier he's talking about how I told you we should have sent Rick Hugh with that other family earlier. And now, can you imagine this guy and what you know about him and how he talks to people? Do you think he brought that up? Had you just listened to me, Rick Hugh would still be alive. I would have sent him earlier with that other family. They lived. That's horrible. And he's dealing with that, and now the wife's dealing with that. Like, I can't, that's a lot to deal with. Okay. That's good. That's a lot to tackle in one day. We'll stop there. What page is that? 109? 110 we'll start with the big sketchbook on it. Sketchbook. So we'll start there. Thank you guys very much for your attention.